Well, welcome to our live webinar. My name is Nicola Pomponio, and today we visit Castello di Monsanto in Chianti Classico. We have the mother-daughter duo with us, Laura Bianchi and Giulia Cecchi. Benvenuti, Laura and Giulia. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Grazie, Nicola. Thank you so much to all of you to be here today with this live from the winery. And for your time listening to me and Giulia. I think it's the first one together. I'm so proud of her.
It's an honor also for me to be here. So thank you, and excited to see you virtually through the winery and together with my mom.
So that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Today we're going to be reviewing 3 wines. Our powerhouse, the Chianti Classico Riserva, and then the Nemo 2017 and the Vinsanto 2007. Both wines, of course, exemplify the winemaking Tuscan expertise at the winery. I mean, Laura, you're going to speak to us about the Chianti Classico at the beginning here in regards to the 19 vintage versus the 20 vintage. We're actually transitioning into the 20, so we want to hear a little bit about how the 2 vintages compare. Would you go ahead and share with us?
Yeah, let's say that the 2 vintages from a climate point of view has been a little bit different. 2019 had a very rainy winter and cold winter. The cold winter helped also to prevent diseases to the vines. And the good rain in the winter and in the spring helped to have a good reserve of water for the following months. So 19 was full of rain in the spring. The summer was quite hot, above all in the months of July. And then during the harvest, so from the middle of September to the middle of October, was a perfect weather with great excursion night and days, which helps a lot to have the development of the aromas inside the skin of the grape. 2020 was a little bit different. The winter was with scarce rain, so not a lot of rain to prepare, the vines for the summer. But then June and July, we had a good quantity of rain, which helped a lot to also be ready for the maturation, because August was quite hot in 2020. But it helped a lot for 2020, some days of rain in the early September, which rebalance perfectly the maturation of the grapes. So we can consider both vintages 5-star vintages, and I think with some different characteristics than in the wine. The 2019 is a little more powerful and for sure a little more structure. The 2020 is showing an incredible finesse and elegance of Sangiovese. The 2020 has a delicious fruit with a very firm mineral backbone, which is really, really evident in this vintage, and which is one of the characteristics of Sangiovese that I like more. In the last 10 years at Castello di Monsanto, we have changed a little bit also the system of vinification for Sangiovese, trying to extract what is the essence of Sangiovese, which is the finesse, the elegance, and not the richer body that maybe we were looking 15 or 20 years ago. So most of the vintages of the last decade, I think that CCR, the Chianti Classico Riserva, is clearly showing the style what we like to taste in the Sangiovese and the Chianti Classico wines. And we are lucky because of the type of soil that we have, the Galestro, the Pietraforte, but also the marine sediment give a lot of saltiness, sapidity to our Sangiovese, and also a very long aftertaste. And it's so evident also in most of the description made by journalists, which are better than me in describing the wines in the last vintages of CCR. They all underline this great capacity of Monsanto wine to show long aftertaste, intensity in the sapidity and minerality, and we like to underline this in our wines. So they are both present in 2020 and 2019. And also because we vinificate each single parcel by itself. There are 62 small parcels, and then only later we decide which one is going into the reserve. Sorry, I have a bad cold. Giulia, go on. I'm so sorry.
The philosophy of the winery, and I jump in, is to really understand each beer separately and we vinify each parcel separately to keep the identity, and then based on a blind taste, we select the best wines and for the Reserva and in Poggio specifically. So it's fundamental for us to separately have these specializations of each vineyard to understand evolutions of each vineyard and how the weather impacts one side of the vineyard compared to the other. So it's we have different soils within the estate with Galestro and Pietraforte on one side mostly, and then Alluvial and Galestro on the other side of the estate. So these combinations give to Sangiovese from our vineyards this sapidity, this minerality, and this incredible aging of Sangiovese.
Thank you very much, Laura. Don't worry, Laura. No worries. It happens. It's natural. Laura, Giulia, thanks for that added bonus for for our team to know the details of each vintage in order for us to make sure that we relay the best detailed information to our clients. I mean, I learn every time I listen, so it was fantastic. I mean, you mentioned 62 different areas that you're combining the wines from. So each time I speak or you speak, we learn something new. So thank you so much, Laura. Giulia, we're going to switch gears. So tell us a little bit about the Hidden Gem Nemo 2017.
Yes, I'm very excited to talk to you about Nemo because it's also connected to the history of Castello di Monsanto. Of course, as all of you know, the first vintage of Castello di Monsanto was 1962, but with a focus of Sangiovese. But over the course of the years, my grandfather, Fabrizio, wanted to experiment also international varietals as Nemo is, which is 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. In a moment of the period where Chianti Classico and all of Tuscany was experimenting international varietals. It was in the late 70s, in the beginning of the 70s, 74 and 75, where we started planting Cabernet Sauvignon at the vineyards, specifically in one part of Castello di Monsanto, one vineyard that is called Il Mulino, which means the wheel in in Italian, because Monsanto and around the vineyards of Monsanto, there is a lot of water, which is now fundamental to kind of give the energy to the vines specifically. So there was an ancient molino near the vineyards of Nemo. And back in the 70s, these experiments of international varietals was starting in Chianti Classico and in Tuscany, and my grandfather was also pioneer for this experiment selection. And the first vintage of Nemo was 1982. The less than 3 hectares, so in Molino Vineyards is very small hectares that now has more than 40 years old vines, because we didn't, they're still the original vines at the Nemo Vineyard. And the name Nemo comes from a phrase, Nemo profeta in patria, which is a Latin phrase that means nobody is a prophet on his own path. My grandfather was from Piedmont, and he experimented with and is pioneer for the era, even coming from a Piedmontese region and experimenting in Tuscany, and also because the experiment of another variety, not the typical varietals of Sangiovese, but in this case Cabernet Sauvignon 100%, really is the expressions of another varietals from the traditional varietals of Tuscany. The vintage 2017 that you have now was a work vintage for Tuscany, but it should this clear glass the touch of Cabernet Sauvignon from Castello di Monsanto. It's Tuscan, but with a still touch that is our philosophy. As Mom was saying, very important for us to keep this acidity, to keep the heritage of our, and it's a Cabernet Sauvignon, so definitely more full body expressions of from our vineyards, but still having a beautiful length and that is typical of the vineyards. Also, in the vineyards of Nemo, the majority of the soil is galestro soil, which helps the vines to go deeper and thirst water and have this length in your palate. So also Nemo is wine that can be aged for years and decades, similar to the other Castello di Monsanto wines, and in particular with the 2017, where you have this stability even more more characteristic. It's meant to be aged for a very long time. The tannins are delicate, and you have we have a beautiful kind of full body expressions of blackberry and a little bit of pepper notes on the palate as well. So different expressions of the traditional Sangiovese and Chianti Classico from Castello di Monsanto, but definitely a wine that represents our identity, even with an international varieties as Cabernet Sauvignon is.
I want to say thank you to Fabrizio for thinking outside of the box and planting Cabernet Sauvignon. I mean, wow, that's amazing. Giulia, grazie. Monica Lerner from Robert Parker called this wine a pretty treat, and I agree 100%. She is definitely correct. Team, Americans love Cabernet, and Americans love Tuscany. What a perfect combination for success. So let's make sure we get that wine out there. Laura, we're going to speak to you about La Chimera 2007. Why is it such a challenge to produce Vin Santo, and how does Monsanto execute this very traditional dessert wine? Tell us.
Yeah, before speaking about La Chimera, I just want to add one note on the availability of Nemo. because a few days ago with some journalists, we opened the first vintage of Nemo, so 1982. We only have 6 bottles left, now 5, sorry, bottles left, and was amazing. So I think that a 40 years old Cabernet showing like this, it's really rare. I mean, could you compare to the longevity of the Bordeaux made in the 80s. Okay, let's go to the Vinsanto. We like to do Vinsanto in the most traditional way, the same way was used in Tuscany 100 years ago. Why? Because we think that a patrimony is made also by culture, by memories, and we need to protect the old good memories of how Vinsanto was made in Tuscany, because it's such a unique wine, so traditional, so part of the old culture of this area, that we decided not to change the way of vinification. And briefly, how it's made. We usually pick the grapes, in this case, Trebbiano and Malvasia, so white grapes, middle of October. Then we put the grapes on racks to dry until usually the end of January. The grape become raisin, so there is a lot of evaporation of the liquid. And then we press the grape. We start the fermentation for 2-3 days in stainless steel. And then we put the wine into very small cask. The cask are 50 liters or 100 liters cask. They're called caratelli in Tuscany. And they are made with different types of wood. Chestnut, cherry wood, and also oak wood. And then we leave a little bit of air inside the barrel, and we close completely the barrel with cement or wax. We leave some air because the fermentation could explode the barrel if it's too strong and there is not enough space for the wine to ferment. And then for 15, 16 years, we do not open the barrels. The Vinsanto is made with a continuous fermentation, is a stop and go. So during the summer, the fermentation starts. During the winter, the fermentation stops because the barrels are kept in a church or ex-church without temperature control. After such a long period, of course, there is a slow evaporation of the wine. And when we open them after 15 or 16 years, we just opened last February, the quantity inside the barrel is really, really small. We could lose 60, 70, 80% of the entire volume, to give an idea. So to sometime from, let's say, 100 kilos of grape, we have 10 liters of Vinsanto. This is more or less the quantity after such a long period. But of course, after all these years, there is a fantastic concentration of the wine, and at the same moment, the development of a lot of aromas that make Vinsanto unique. It's also very important to leave the Vinsanto in the bottle at least 1 year before releasing, because the reduced atmosphere, so the atmosphere without the oxygen inside the bottle, helps to develop more and more aromas of the Vinsanto.
Wow, Laura, did you mention the name La Chimera and where it came from?
La chimera in the Italian language means the dream. What do you like to reach? Your dream. But it's also the name of a very famous sculpture from the Etruscan. You know, the Etruscan lived in Tuscany 2,000 years ago, and they already cultivated the vines. And the La Chimera is the symbol of the Etruscan civilization. And we found an Etruscan tomb in the property in 1982, and we decided to give an Etruscan name with an important meaning, the dream, to the Vinsanto, which is really a dream for palates.
Yeah, delicious. Speaking of delicious, what do you like to have the Vinsanto with?
Me personally, I prefer Vinsanto with cheeses, with dry cheeses. I would like Roquefort, or in Tuscany we have a sort of pâté, a sort of foie gras made with chicken liver, cooked also with some Vinsanto, which is fantastic combination. But if you like to serve with dessert, I prefer dessert with dry figs, dry apricots, dry fruits in general. Not too creamy type of desserts.
Oh, you're making my mouth
but it's
water.
also very good with the tiramisu.
Yeah, with the tiramisu. Tiramisu, lift me up, right? Tiramisu.
Yes.
You know, I wrote down a few words when you were speaking. I love this word. I love the word caratelli. I think we should use that word when we're out selling, because that's the small little barrels that they utilize. And the caratelli barrels, you mentioned cherry, correct? Type of wood. What were the other that you mentioned? The other types?
Oak and chestnut.
Oak and chestnut. Perfect. So we want to make sure that we're mentioning the cherry, oak, and chestnut caratelli. Always mention 15 to 16 years of aging. I wrote down continuous fermentation. That's so important to speak to about how the fermentation process stops and starts every year. And then, of course, the angel share, 80% of the volume evaporates. So just really great
Anita is asking how old are the barrels for Vinsanto. They are really old. Of course, once in a while we add some new one. Also because inside of these barrels there is a sediment of the yeast we call la madre, the mother of the yeast. There is a sediment that we use when we open the old barrels. We add the mother to the new Vinsanto because these yeasts are very precious and almost 100 years old. We found them in the property when the property was bought 60 years ago, and we protect them. We transmit this yeast vintage after vintage. We don't produce Vinsanto every year, but when it's produced, we also protect the yeast inside the barrel.
See, the mother is always good to have. It's one of the most important, not only in family, but also in wine. I love it. I love it. So La Chimera team, what a fantastic dessert wine. We have the 2007 in stock, and we have a special treat. We'll do a separate webinar for our future dessert wine, and I won't spoil that. We'll talk about that another time. La Chimera actually allows us to gain yet another placement. So where you have CCR or where you have Il Poggio on a shelf or on a list, it helps you get another spot on the wine list and on those shelves of those high-end wine stores. Laura, Giulia, all three of these wines have been amazing. Thank you so much. They've been such a pleasure for us to listen to you reviewing these together. There's a few questions that we have, I believe, in the chat that maybe we can answer. I want to read this first one from Douglas. It's actually more of a statement. He said, some of our guests to Monsanto who have worked with trophy cabs from California, like some of the bigger names, I won't say the names, have expressed disappointment in the ageability of California cabs and admire the longevity of Nemo and how Nemo can age so well. And you just mentioned you opened a 1980, what was it?
82.
82. Yeah, I mean, wow. It's just amazing to be able to hear that, because I don't believe California cabs from some of those top producers, those trophy cab producers, are aging like a beautiful Cabernet that your father planted. Like I mentioned, thank you to Fabrizio. And then we had another question here. How long can the La Quimera last as a by the glass placement? So if you open the bottle, how long does the bottle typically last if it's in a restaurant for by the glass placement?
The Monsanto can stay open very, very long. If you put in the fridge, recork by hand for a month without problem.
Wow! See,
after the
that's
opening.
great to know.
Yeah. It's a very long. I mean, it can stay open very, very long.
Well, our 30 minutes has come to an end, and it goes really fast, especially when we're hearing such amazing information. Laura, Giulia, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules and your busy days today. I'm going to hand it back over to you for the closing, Laura and Giulia.
Thank you, Nicola, and thank you to all of you for this moment, but most important for all your help every day in promoting Monsanto wine. We need your support, we need your attention, but I'm sure that you're doing all what's possible to help us every day. And we will be soon in US. Giulia is already there, yes. And I hope to meet all of you very soon too.
Giulia?
I want to say thank you. Also, I'm very excited for this new year together, because this is really the first call that we had with the team. So I'm very excited for what will be next. I will see some of you next week, and then some. It was a pleasure to have part of the late last year at the winery, and another part of the group will come later this year also. So it's a pleasure, and I'm very excited for this new year together. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you again for your time. Ciao e grazie. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, grazie. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.